Hi, this is Greg Johnson with Produce Blue Book, and I'm here today with our retail editor, Pamela Riemenschneider, and this is our week in review. What in the world are we going to talk about? What we're not going to talk about is it should be opening day, and it's not.
Oh,
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know. Last week we already suffered through missing March Madness, and this week it's opening day.
Yeah, March sadness. Yeah. So, what are we going to talk about?
All the news was not sad in the produce world. There's
No.
been tons of disruption, but as America is quarantined in their own houses, they are allowed to go to grocery stores while restaurant dining rooms are closed. And look, you're in one right there, and there are tons of produce items right behind you. Produce
Yeah.
sales have been skyrocketing the past couple weeks, and we probably have not seen the end of that. And you talked
No.
with Marie Roerick with 210 Analytics, who got into the data with you, and I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, the look at the data. So week ending March 8th was toilet paper, Clorox wipes, all that stuff. Week ending March 15th was meat and canned veg. Canned vegetables were up 200%. Meat was up 77%. Produce was only up 33% overall, but I mean, that's fresh produce. Canned and veg and frozen was actually up over, all of those were over 100%. But what we talked about here is, and when we're looking at the numbers, sorry, excuse me, week ending 3/22, which was this past Saturday, is going to be even higher probably as consumers continue to stock up. But it's going to start tapering off. It's going to hit this big jump and then come taper off. But it's got to stay elevated because people got to eat, and they're not doing it at restaurants.
Yeah, that's right. The new normal while restaurants are closed has to be higher because
Yeah.
people are not skipping meals. They just aren't getting it at restaurants. Salads are still being eaten.
Yeah. And we're not going to see sustained 200% canned vegetables. There's only so many cans of beans you can put in your pantry. And then going forward, I think the produce industry and, PMA actually mentioned in town hall yesterday that there's going to be some marketing efforts going forward on encouraging consumers to eat more fresh produce. There were items that I'm hearing not only from the numbers, but also from grower shippers. If you weren't a core, top volume item, really durable stuff, potatoes, sweet potatoes, citrus, onions, you maybe didn't get a seat at the table. One of the retailers that talked during the town hall breakout discussions, and all of that was off the record, so I'm not going to identify who they are, but they reduced their SKU count from 1,500 or so down to 350. So that's got a lot of people concerned because they're not moving volume. But going forward, I think we're going to see people calm down a little bit. But as we're stuck at home, we still got to eat, and we still got to remember other meal occasions besides dinner as well. We've got everyone here. We need to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack, 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 and snack. And hopefully fresh produce reminds people that it's a great snacking option. So I think we're going to see people go, oh my gosh, I bought too much food. I need to slow down and actually eat some of this before it goes bad. So that's going to also contribute over the next 2 or 3 weeks of people not buying quite so much, but we still got to eat, and we're not doing it at restaurants. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, the week started off with me talking to Tim York with Marcon and talking about how as a produce supplier to restaurants, they're really getting hammered, and it is devastating. And hopefully restaurants are able to find ways to get some of that product into retail, since that's where the sales are going to be. That doesn't help the restaurants. We don't really cover the restaurant industry, but there are restaurants all over the country that are closed, and a lot of them won't come back the longer this goes, and that is very sad.
And so it's something that we've seen produce distributors pivot, like U.S. Foods and C&S wholesale grocers have teamed up, United Fresh and the National Grocers Association, IFDA, International Food Service Distributors Association, and FMI. They're working together to I have, you need, kind of with labor and trucks and direct store deliveries, but that's not restaurant out. that's not restaurant outlets, and that's not helping scores and scores of restaurants stay alive through what's going on. We've done our part. We've had some takeout, but to my point earlier, we can't keep ordering takeout because I gotta eat the food we have here too. The biggest thing that I keep hearing about that is a barrier to eating more fresh produce is the myths that are going on out there in the industry. And I didn't understand how bad it was until somebody shared this YouTube link with me from some quote unquote doctor going through and telling people how they're supposed to keep from getting coronavirus from their groceries. And the dude goes through his entire bag. I don't want to link to it, but I'm going to say he's a hippie-ish looking guy who tells you to wash your fresh produce with soap and water, and it's completely insane. So what did you cover from this week from the town hall, trying to help reassure consumers that 10 seconds under cool water is all you need?
That's right. The town hall's biggest message to me was reassuring consumers that, one, the best way to clean fresh fruits and vegetables is running them underwater. You don't need, sometimes you might need a brush to scrub some of the dirtier ones, but you do not need soap. You don't need bleach. You don't need to be mixing things that might turn into a hazardous chemical or poison. All you need to do is that. And then another thing they mentioned and then linked to a video of two, I believe they're epidemiologists who study
Virologists,
food biology. Yeah. Anyway, they talked about how the COVID-19 is not a foodborne pathogen. And Dr. Max Teplinski with PMA said, what if the worst case scenario, someone goes into a store who's tested positive of this, sneezes on a produce item, and then someone who didn't have it were to eat that produce item, would they get it? And these two doctors both said, very unlikely, because the digestive tract is too hard for this virus. They call the virus a wimpy virus, meaning that it doesn't stay on contacts very well compared to some other viruses that harm the food industry, like noroviruses or cyclospora, something like that. Is every spring, the Environmental Working Group comes out with the Dirty Dozen. And I cannot imagine, well, first of all, I can't imagine I'm still alive with eating raisins. I mean, these are just like injecting pesticides straight into my veins. I mean, I'm probably filled with cancer. Okay, I'm joking. They said that raisins were more dangerous than anything on the Dirty Dozen. Their timing was the worst ever. Who in the world is thinking about, oh, no, I'm not going to get those strawberries because they're not organic, they're conventional, and I have to worry about pesticides. We're worried about feeding our families.
Yeah, and for me,
something healthy, hopefully.
The just absolute bad, when we do marketing 101, you have to know your audience, you have to know the time. You can't, just because you have a campaign planned doesn't mean that you roll forward with it when the world is in lockdown. This is the worst timing. And actually, you know what? I think for the produce industry, it could be great timing for the Dirty Dozen to come out, because everyone saw it as such a sleazy thing to do. I mean, right now, you're worried about actually finding food at the store, not as if, is it organic? Is it conventional? Maybe you don't have a job. Maybe you've been furloughed and you're just trying to feed your family.
It's like it came in and just hit with a thud.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we want to see right now. And hopefully that downward trajectory, that downward momentum will continue going forward. There is nothing wrong with organic produce. I eat a lot of different kinds of produce, including organic. It's just that this flawed study, this, not so transparently a fundraiser for the Environmental Working Group, this is just not the way to scare people into avoiding those 12 items. All right, well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Stay tuned for more. And if you, sorry, I'm almost over this cough. And if you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up. Hopefully see you next week, if I make it. I mean, wow, you're really taking a risk there with your raisins. I should send you some hand sanitizer.